Have you ever felt a little less smart after being on your smartphone? Have you ever thought about it not only affecting you, but that society as a whole might have shifted a little bit in that direction? I remember being with my friends, not quite sure where and when, but we were just relaxing, being on our phones, looking at stuff. There was only one problem: my phone. My phone was totally broken, like cracked everywhere and lagging. It would get extremely heated after a few minutes of using it and then just turn black. After a few minutes I would then be able to turn it back on, yet that pattern always repeated and progressively got worse. During one of its million blackouts, I was left watching everyone else being busy on their phones. It was the first time I realized that our world is changing in regards of how our minds are acting with this new technology. Nicholas G. Carr writes in his book, In the Shallows, "Once I was a scuba diver in a sea of words. Now I just zip along the surface like a guy in a jet ski." What he says describes not only how our reading has changed, but, in my opinion, it also describes a current way of thinking. We do not dwell deeply in our minds anymore. We rather just move along the surface for the elements that we need. Of course, in today's age, our minds are not that challenged anymore, but we still have all that potential floating around in our heads. We have turned into the zoo lion. A lion is the king of the savannah, fully realizing its purpose, its mind focused on the next prey. It has so many amazing abilities because it needs them to survive. The zoo lion, on the other hand, is exactly the opposite. It has lost any need to use its potential. It cannot run properly, cannot hunt properly. It goes even further than that, as most lions held in zoos grow a catalytic skin over their eyes, decreasing their ability to see immensely. In a sense, they go blind. Now, for a lion in captivity, this won't really be of an impact because it will still get its food and water. But think about that lion in the wild. It wouldn't be able to spot its prey properly, making hunting for it an almost impossible task. It would most likely find a quick end in the wilderness. Our mental progression is in some way similar to that lion metaphor, as we don't have the proper need to think deeply anymore. So we've adapted to use our brains rather quicker and shallower, and therefore a lot less thoroughly. Now, by all means, I'm not saying that technology is bad. Technology has its pros and cons. It is our usage of this medium that turns us into the zoo lion. Do you know that feeling when you look on your phone to check for the time? You then check through your new messages, and at the end when you turn off your phone again, you forgot what the time actually was? It has happened to me countless of times. It doesn't matter whether it's a text message, an email, or a notification for a new YouTube video. We often have the urge to be updated and to know what is happening around us. Those distractions, as in social media, hinder us from actually diving deep in our brains and thinking properly, as our brain is transformed into a quick response machine. But who cares about thinking deeply and properly anyway? I mean, I can Google whatever I need, right? I've come up with 3 steps that we can follow that will help us solve the problem of not thinking deeply anymore. First, we should appreciate our brains. There have been many times where I was not happy with the decision my brain made. For example, eating the last piece of chocolate cake, feeling super full afterwards. But it was not my brain that made that decision. It was me. My brain is me. In my opinion, we should even treat our brains as something incredibly amazing. Because if we think about it, they are the medium that enables everything around us. Second, we should challenge ourselves, exploring our own mental boundaries. This might depend from person to person. For one person, this might be to learn an additional language. For someone else, it might be to have memorized the whole U8 line, even being able to say it in reverse. It's like nowadays we have a 200 miles per hour sports car, but we only drive 60 miles an hour. Logically, one buys such a car to try out its top speed. We do not buy our brains, we are born with them. But don't you want to find out how fast your brain is able to go, particularly where it's able to go? Third, we should transform those powerful thoughts in our minds into something actual. Be it a drawing, a motivational force inside of you, a positive energy, or this speech. In the last few weeks, I've been running an experiment. I've tried to think deeper in consideration to my normal thinking patterns. Now, what do I mean by deeper? I mean less distracted, more focused and connected to my actual surroundings. I pause, listen, and question everything more. And I'm starting to see many patterns in people and what they say and what they're actually trying to communicate. Because listening is one thing, and actively listening is another. Just like thinking is one thing, and thinking deeply is another. Through this, I've also found a very long-lasting fountain of energy in myself. I believe we should all try to be strong. We should all try to be wild lions, appreciate our brains, challenge ourselves, think deeper, and transform our thoughts into actions. I strongly believe we will all be amazed by the outcome. Thank you.